What are the top 5 things that go wrong for first-time marathon runners? Stick around and I will talk about real-world examples of mistakes that I have made so that you can avoid these problems in your race. I will also talk about planning to minimize the potential pitfalls that can negatively impact any marathon runner. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome. I am Aaron. I'm a marathon runner and former infantry marine. I ran thousands of miles and 11 official races in both marathons and half marathons. As the years passed since my last marathon in 2018, life happened and I put on some extra weight. When I would attempt to restart running again, I would often end up spending more time nursing nagging injuries than running miles on the track. In 2025, I had enough of that pattern and decided I was going to lose this weight so that I could get back to running marathons. I've dropped 25 pounds so far and I'm halfway to my goal that will allow me to start my marathon training program again. I am documenting my journey to lose weight and return to running marathons and fill that last empty spot on my rack of marathon medals. Please join me on my road to redemption, and if you find value in this journey, please like and subscribe. Okay, let's talk about self-inflicted mistakes that can impact your race as well as things that may happen outside of your control. When it comes to mistakes, I have made them all. The good news is you can learn from my pain. First mistake we will talk about is in training. Did you run enough miles? Was your LSD run long enough? And that is long, slow distance run for any of you that may have thought it went off the rails in some 60s flashback. Did you do hill work? What about your speed work? Do you understand the elevation changes in your course? Have you traveled your course before your scheduled race? There is a lot that goes into training preparation. If you need help with this, leave a comment and I can talk to you about questions you may have in your training regimen. I will end up making a separate video about training as it is too big a concept to cover in this video. While in training for the Marine Corps Marathon in 2014, I broke my toe. I ended up compressing a normal 5-month training cycle into 3 weeks. By the 3rd mile of the race, my entire body was hurting. I'll talk more about this experience in future episodes, but let me tell you it was absolutely miserable. I did, however, finish the race and get my medal. So, the cliff notes on training is this. Make sure that you have built a solid base in your training before you add miles to start extending the distance. A good rule of thumb is to not increase your miles more than 10% of each week. The second most common mistake I have seen is in gear. What mistakes in gear am I talking about? Well, let's go back in time. The year was 2015. It was February and I was just outside of Grand Rapids, Michigan for the Groundhog's Day Marathon. There was a winter storm warning and I knew the weather was going to be an issue. In my infinite wisdom, I decided that at the last second that my normal marathon socks would not be warm enough. So I threw down the Balegas and picked up my winter socks. Ironically, I had told numerous other runners not to change anything on race day. About a half mile in, both feet had large blisters. So for about 12 and a half miles, every step I made, I was wincing in pain. Someone with more brains than me might have DNF'd. Do not finish, that is. I pushed through on the ice and through the sleet storm, and my feet paid the price. The lesson here is do not change anything on race day. Do not wear a new shirt, new socks, new deodorant, or new anything. Make sure that any gear you wear has been validated on numerous long distance runs. The third mistake that comes to mind is nutrients. If you're running 26.2 miles, you are likely going to need some refueling during your race. Do not depend on race support staff or Gatorade boosts along your route to keep you properly fueled. You should have salt tabs as well as nutrient packs of your choice. You should have a plan to take them based on time or distance to ensure your body stays properly fueled for your race. You should have been using these nutrients on your long, slow distance runs in your training cycle. This is to ensure that your digestion system is okay with the brand long before your race day. Again, nothing new on race day. I have seen people at numerous marathons run out of fuel and their bodies could not go any further. I've had my stomach go sideways on a long run with new nutrients. Again, change nothing on race day. The fourth mistake I'd like to talk about is food and planning. Some people think that you can carb load for a race in 2 to 3 meals. This is not the case. You should be carb loading for 5 to 7 days prior to your race. You should be eating a meal that you have consumed numerous times that you yourself or your partner have prepared. If you are running a race out of town, you should try to pre-scout out a restaurant that serves this meal and has good ratings. I would typically eat spaghetti bolognese before my races. If I was eating in town, I would make a large batch of it myself and eat it nightly for a period of 5 to 7 days. For breakfast, I would often eat eggs and rice 5 to 7 days again before my race. The night before the Chicago Marathon in 2015, I asked the hotel concierge to make me a reservation at a good Italian restaurant. I made it clear that I was in town to run the marathon and that I specifically needed to carb load. Chicago is a major marathon. Over 37,000 people ran the Chicago Marathon that year. It is extremely hard to find last-minute reservations. This is further complicated by the fact that much of downtown is shut down for the race the following morning, so it is more difficult to get to an actual restaurant. The concierge assured me that she was from Italy and had just the place for me. When I arrived at the restaurant at the Navy Pier, the food was 100% seafood. There was little, if any, pasta to be found. I had to call an audible. I found a cab and ordered to go from another restaurant. I ended up with food poisoning and got maybe 2 hours of sleep where I wasn't in the restroom. I'll tell this story in more detail in future episode as well. This brings us to mistake number 5, nerves and sleep. Try to understand as much about the actual race you are running before the race. This will help put your mind at ease. Know the course, the elevation changes, where and how often you plan to refuel your body. Plan and be willing to adjust. Try to get to sleep early. If you are at risk of missing an alarm, set multiple alarms. If you have to Uber to the starting line, check into the app the night before and make sure that all is good with your account. Knowing you are prepared can help set your mind at ease and help to get you rest before the race the following morning.